those of you who have been watching Dallas, Pittsburgh, and Cleveland and Houston, and we're going to get you caught up on scores from around the league in this Week 6. First of all, down in Dallas at Texas Stadium, the Cowboys lead the Steelers by a score of 10-3. Great first half for Danny White. 10 for 10 at 1 point in the half. Tony Dorsett came in needing just 31 yards to become the 6th player in NFL history to get 10,000. But his main contribution has come as a receiver. Watch this. Dorsett splits the seam, beats the linebacker. This is the only touchdown so far. 10-3 Dallas after Rafael Sepien's field goal just before the half. Denver and Indianapolis, the Broncos lead it by a score of 6-3. Couple of 3-2 clubs. The Broncos one of 4 3-2 teams in the AFC West. There's Dan Reeves. He's watched his offense turn into the AFC's most potent. Here's how the touchdown was scored, the sequence anyway. Vance Johnson will return the ball 38 yards. A nice run up the sideline. He gets good blocking, goes behind the wall. He goes to the 46-yard line. Then John Elway takes over. 45 yards to Clint Sampson on the right side there. That set up a 2-yard touchdown run by Sammy Winder. 6-3 Denver after Raul Alegre's 28-yard field goal. The Giants in Cincinnati. This is a bit of a surprise. The Bengals lead it 21-3. It figured to be a big day for Phil Simms against the Bengals secondary, ranked last against the pass, but the Bengals have controlled this ball game. The Rams and Tampa Bay. The Buccaneers lead this by a score of 17-14. James Wilder has scored on a 1-yard touchdown run. Eric Dickerson scored on a 6-yard touchdown run for the Rams. Cleveland and Houston, the game that some of you have been watching. The Oilers lead this 6-0. A couple of Tony Zendejas field goals. It may have been costly for the Browns, however. They lost Eddie Johnson, their leading tackler. Bernie Kosar started today, but he was intercepted. Admittedly, this wasn't his fault. The pass deflected. It is intercepted, and the Oilers lead the ball game 6-0. Buffalo and New England. The Bills 3-0 over the Patriots. Tony Eason is out with an injury. Steve Grogan replaced him and fumbled on the first snap. Interceptions have been the story, although Joe Cribb's coming back. He wasn't in uniform, though. He worked out with the team before the game. Derek Burrows, in his first pro start, will intercept Tony Eason to stop a drive in the end zone. And then Charles Romes comes back and intercepts another Eason pass. Eason has had interception problems all year, as has Vince Ferragamo. It is 3-0 Buffalo. Washington and Detroit. The Lions haven't won in Washington since 1937. A couple of touchdowns in the first half from John Riggins. He now has 100 in his career, second to Jim Brown. 17-3 the score in Washington. At County Stadium in Milwaukee, Green Bay and Minnesota all tied up at 7. Lynn Dickey has thrown a 5-yard touchdown pass to Jesse Clark. Tommy Kramer responded with a 14-yard touchdown pass to Mike Jones. Philadelphia and St. Louis, this is another surprise. The Eagles lead the game 13-0. A couple of Paul McFadden field goals started the scoring. Neil O'Donohue missed a couple of field goals for the Cardinals. And now Ahmad Rashad. And I've got to ask you this. Tony Dorsett has only, I think, 5 yards on 8 carries for the Cowboys in the first half. The Steelers' priority was to stop him.
That's right, Billy. I talked to Tony Dungy last week, and he said going into this game, the thing that you can't do is you can't concentrate on Dallas's pass. You got to stop Tony Dorsett, because as soon as the linebackers start to drop off, Tony Dorsett just picks you apart. They have stopped Tony Dorsett on the ground, but they forgot he's one of the best all-around ball carriers in the league, and he's catching balls, I think he's over 80 yards in reception.
Playing pretty conservatively. Does that surprise you?
For the Cowboys?
Yeah.
Not too much. I think they're the type of team. They win however they can.
Yeah, okay. By the way, earlier on our pregame show, Larry King said that the Players Association will sign an agreement for drug testing in Major League Baseball. Donald Fair, the director of the Players Association, the executive director, denied the story a few moments ago, but he did confirm that there has been a proposal from the 26 clubs concerning drug testing, but that no plan is imminent. And we will return with more halftime activities after these words from our local station. We're back now at halftime. Like most life forms, even pro football players undergo a form of evolution. Changes are natural and inevitable. Here's Axe.
The changing of the guard, a tradition older than the leather helmet or the prevent defense. Favorites do it, the Royal Legion. legions at Buckingham Palace put on a tourist spectacle as if they don't know that they never covered a point spread as the British Empire collapsed. Underdogs do it. Lenin was a 30-point dog when he challenged the Tsar. Now his tomb is honored by the jackbooted march of Soviet guards. In football, the changing of the guard can be just as varied. In Philadelphia, they ordered veteran Ron Jaworski to hand over his rifle to young Randall Cunningham. The result? An explosion of disaster. Now Jaws has his sentinel duty back, and the Eagles are competitive again. Cleveland is watching a different scenario. Gary Danielson is banged up, and the shield of Brown's honor has been handed over to rookie Bernie Kosar from Miami. Immodesty requires that I mention that I predicted on a preceding telecast that Bernie would be starting. Voila, he's starting in week 6. Does this certify me as a seer? Of course not. It was blind luck. It was also a dim moment for Danielson, who said realistically, I could be out anywhere from 1 week to 15 years. But speaking of blurred vision, consider the fans who watch the changing casts in the theater of pro football. In their view, the Cunninghams and Kosars can seldom win. As Mark Malone, the guy who replaced Terry Bradshaw with the Steelers, says, it's funny that when people are gone, they're perfect in the fans' eyes. It's funnier, Mark, that when Bradshaw arrived in Pittsburgh, the same fans thought he was too stupid to go through a changing of the guard.
We're not even going to address the issue of the fans who thought similar things about any of the personnel on this show, Bill.
Who did you call to get Lennon plus 30? That's all I want to know. You're friends with Dan Fouts, Ahmad. Dan is hurt. Will we see a changing of the guard in San Diego, you think?
You will, Bill. And you know the thing about it, I talked to Dan last week. He's planning on playing later on this year. He's out where he's going to every single meeting, keeping his head in the game, and he's planning on coming back. But they're playing now with Mark Herman, who's just now getting used to the offense. And he's the type of guy that throws a pass similar to Fran Tarkenton. It's not a blooper, but it's very easy to catch. The big story in San Diego is that Wes Chandler got hurt last week, Thursday in practice. He was just starting to come on. They put in a lot of plays for him in the offense this week. He gets hurt on Thursday. Now, all of a sudden, they've worked all week on his plays. The pressure now is on Trumaine Johnson. He's got to play this week or else they're in some deep trouble.
All right, you still have a half of football to go. Stay with us as our halftime activities continue.